AskReddit by Dolphins for EVR. What is something you have a hard time not judging people about? Being proud of being awful and absolute arseholes to their children. I, F15, was on a train with my mother, F50, a couple years ago. We were enjoying our trip, laughing and playing together. We were sitting next to a man and his wife. They were about 60 yo. He started talking to us out of the blue and he said some things like a mother and her daughter shouldn't be friends. A daughter should hate her mother BC she's strict, and randomly bring up his children. When we got off the train, we looked at each other and laughed about it, but I actually felt so bad about his kids. Leaving trash in nature or anywhere really. I don't get it. One of my pet peeves are people who throw their empty beer or energy drink cans off ski lifts. The lifties have to hike up the hill with trash bags picking up the litter. The people who do this have no respect for nature or the employees. People who don't use their turn signals. Even better, the ones who turn on the turn signal after they're already turning. People pressuring other people to do something after the other people have already said no. Oh come on. Just one drink. Poor treatment of pets. Buying a $3,500 puppy for their kid at Christmas and dumping the dog at the pound a few months later when they realize how challenging raising a cute puppy can be. I will judge you. Glances down at purebred husky from pound sitting on couch snuggling with favorite toys. Being oblivious at how much space they are taking up in public. I used to work in a building where you had to swipe your keycard to enter through a turnstile, and the system was a bit slow. There were around 400 people working there. You can imagine how there was always a queue. Every day there was some dickhead having a conversation in front of the turnstiles, completely ignoring the people wanting to pass. Every day there was some dude getting to the front of the queue and only then realizing they needed their keycard to get through. Everybody knew how annoying the process was. How can you care that little about other people? Related, placing your backpack on a seat in a crowded bus train, blocking a supermarket aisle with your trolley. People not taking out what they need while waiting in line prior to it being their turn drive me nuts. Is this your first time conducting a transaction? Did you not know you'd be called upon to produce a form of payment after your items have been rung up? Ugh. People who act tough. I can't take them seriously. Oh yeah? You can't take them seriously, huh? Wanna say that to my face, chief? I hate people that feel the need to constantly bring others down and make them feel bad about things they enjoy. It's so sad to watch someone's enthusiasm about their hobby deflate because another person decided to be a dick about it. Working with kids, it's something I try to nip in the bud. Unfortunately, there's way too many adults doing that to kids. My cousin's dreams were crushed as kids by the adults in my family. Talents went to waste because of that. Even as a child myself, I knew it was wrong. Littering. I can't think of a single good reason to litter. You are supposed to judge people for littering. Not cleaning up after their dog. Just get a doggy bag PPL. Well, I'd take it a step further. Some people actually clean up after their dog, put it in a bag, then toss that bag in the bushes trees. Trimmed some trees at the edge of our property along the road and found several doggy poop bags. Luckily we put up a couple signs and it seems to have solved the problem. At least if they had left the poop alone it would have eventually biodegraded, but they had to seal it up in plastic. A parent leaving and ignoring one family to get a new so and raise that person's children. Generally it is getting a new partner, who doesn't have kids, and create a new batch of kids, forgetting the existing kids. Happened to a childhood friend of mine. She had a rotten father. He just walked out of their lives, created 2 new kids and refused to pay for his original 2 kids' schooling and university, which he had promised them he would pay. People with no sense of self-awareness. So they stop in the middle of walkways, entrances, crosswalks for no reason. And grocery aisles. At least apologize if blocking the aisle. Constant aggression at the slightest thing. Could be a mental health issue, but lashing out isn't the answer. I just wish the mental health system wasn't completely useless now. My dad is unfortunately like this. He acknowledges that kind of toxic behavior and usually tells me not to do the same while he continues repeating it. I had a hard time come to terms with this and put it down to how he was raised as a child, but man, I wish he would stop lashing out so easily. People who use their phones on full volume in public. It's one thing for kids, but I keep seeing adults doing it. I just cannot imagine being that self-centered. I'm seeing it way too often. Edit. And yes, of course I'm including people talking on speakerphone in public. Monsters. Edit. Getting way too many messages from people justifying this behavior for various reasons. Stop. Not only do I not care, but you just make me think you're even more selfish pretending headphones aren't widely available for very cheap. Just stop. If you know you can't hear or your phone isn't working properly, you should go get headphones. I don't even think it's particularly acceptable for kids to be doing it either, tbh. No one else in the cafe, pub, doctor's waiting room wants to listen to the nonsense you're watching, game you're playing at top volume. It's so obnoxious. Mistreating folks in the customer service industry. Employers treating their employees like shit. I won't return to the establishment. People smoking around their kids. The worst is when they have their kids in the car or in the house smoking and the poor kids cannot escape. Anyone who participates in that awful tradition of slamming someone's face into their birthday cake. Or wedding cake. I have a hard time with other people's parenting styles. Or lack of, or if you are straight up abusing or bullying your kid. Some parenting styles, i.e., traditional abuse, spanking, neglect, sexual abuse, misogyny, turning a blind eye, checking out, berating, shaming your kids, things of that nature. Every kid is different and needs different things. Or ignoring them in public so they run amok and act like feral cats. Monitor and discipline your children. How well taken care of their pets are. So much blatant animal neglect and abuse in the animal subreddits, it boggles my mind. Chewing with your mouth open. You're supposed to be taught that it's rude as a child. The fact that someone still does it as an adult is probably a red flag, and I'm going to think less of you. People with loud cars or people who drive like they own the road. Especially when they put the shitty cut mufflers on. How do they think that sounds good? Overly performative people. Not just bragging, but I know a guy for whom the act of reading is something you have to do in Starbucks in the hope someone will comment on the book he's reading, not actually about the act of reading. Yeah, my dad used to collect large hardbound books to display in his office. Never read them. Just wanted the optics of being learned without doing the actual work. When he died, we put boxes and boxes of Reader's Digest condensed books out at the curb. The small town library didn't want them, and there were no other takers. People being rude to servers in restaurants and Drive Thursday. Your kid might work there and you sure wouldn't want someone nasty to them. People who don't take care of their kids. Misuse of your urine damp. There. Something about my estimation of them drops when I pick up on it. I feel the same way about loose. Rudeness. People who do the whole competitive misery thing, or similarly people like the woman I work with constantly feels the need to act like my pain, and anyone else who mentions being in pain, couldn't possibly be as bad as hers, and it's just very shitty. Edit, rephrased for clarity. Edit 2. I originally said Pain Olympics, which has some alternate meaning. Changed it to competitive misery for further clarity. The lack of sleep self-care Olympics is definitely also in this category. Nobody thinks you're a harder worker than me because you say you slept for shorter than I did when I say I'm sleepy. Intolerance of others in the Dutch. The number of people not realizing this is an Austin Powers quote. People ignoring a cue. People who decide to have kids when they aren't in a position to raise them. Or having kids with someone you knew damn well wasn't fitted to be a parent, but that's convenient because you want kids and then complain how bad parents they are. I wish I could at my parents. Using apostrophes to pluralize. My kid's school just posted, "Fridays are fun when," and I wanted to claw my eyes out. Apostrophes don't pluralize. You are an educational institution. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. People with enormously obese pets that can barely walk. It's not cute, they are not a chonker, you just kind of suck. My mom is like this. She's overweight herself. She gets upset if anyone brings up the dog's weight too. It's frustrating because it's so much easier to limit a dog's food and make sure it's getting walked. Not disciplining their kid, especially in public. When I worked as a cashier, I had a woman with 6 screaming loud kids touching everything. She just ignored them. People who declined vaccinations for their children. They just know better with zero real education on anything remotely related to science behind vaccinations. So when I had my last kid, I was in a high-risk children's hospital in St. Pete, Florida. I got to talk to my nurse after my C-section and she told me the hardest part of her job was seeing people let their kids die over a simple vaccine at birth that we require, but because of religious reasons they won't do it. She says she's seen kids die of just needing antibiotics and simple shit we take every day. Fuck those parents. That woman was bawling telling me about this and just reassured me why I never became a nurse. Drama. Being attached to being miserable. My sympathy only goes so far, and then you need to figure out that you're the common denominator in all your troubles. Yup, this one here. I can't stand people who can't take responsibility. I know someone trying to get their license back and they still drive without it. Like, don't come crying to me when you get pulled over and ruin your chance. Animal neglect or abuse. People who've been in a difficult situation, got themselves out of it, usually with some sort of luck or help, then look down on people currently in that same situation because they themselves were able to get themselves out, therefore so should others. I find it hard to muster up sympathy for people who die doing exciting but dangerous activities. Free climbing? Scaling a building to dangle your feet for Instagram? Free diving? Cave diving? Motorcycle tricks on the highway? I'm sorry to the family for the loss, but like, they died voluntarily doing something completely unnecessary and super risky. I'm in the climbing community and the people that free solo treat it as if it's a personal choice and shouldn't matter to anyone else. What they fail to understand is that a 20-year-old turning into splatter at a crowded crag leads to a ruined day of climbing, therapy bills for a lot of people, and someone shoveling up their exploded carcass. If someone with no family or friends could somehow free solo in an area where their corpse could never be found, I guess that would actually be a personal thing. I have been friends with a certain person for over 20 years and he will absolutely give you the shirt off his back or his very last dollar, but because we are such close friends I know the reality is he is only like that so he can tell people he's like that. He will go out of his way and make the time to help someone out day or night, but he's only doing it so people see him doing it so that people will talk about what a good guy he is. I try not to judge him for it, but he's certainly not as altruistic as he lets everyone believe. Someone in my family is like this. Has paid shit for other family members, even helped some with school etc, and she does it so they can kiss her ass. When they don't, she turns against them. Also, overall has a holier than thou attitude NGL. When they shove their religion in other people's faces. Being plain rude to people in the service industry. Not throwing trash in the trash bins. People who wave hang wear the Nazi flag swastika, especially in the context of being patriots TM. My grandpa didn't kill Nazis and liberate concentration camps just to let those fuckers run amok here. People who claim they practice gentle parenting but are really just permissive parents, and as a result their kids are little selfish assholes. You can be a gentle parent but still say no. You can be a respectful parent and still set boundaries. When someone outgoing adopts a shy person, I'm gonna make you more talkative stfu, and mind your own business, you weirdo. Edit, changed extrovert and introvert to outgoing and shy. Yes. And acting like they're doing you a favor because being introverted is bad. As an introvert, this always felt very condescending and made the situation worse by putting me in the spot. When people knock on doors and try to preach or give you a word about their religion. Especially if you're clearly trying to leave. Bragging about not reading books. Please stay away from me. People having children they can't afford. Especially when it's their 4th, 5th, 6th. You've had enough time to learn what child rearing costs at this point. I was in a local moms group where people could donate used kids stuff, but it became absolutely ridiculous with the requests. So many people on there with sob stories just fishing for money, asking for cars and apartments. Then when I post hand-me-down clothes, bedding etc., nobody wants them. People who complain about a situation and do nothing about it. Especially if they got themselves into the said situation. Drivers who don't stop at crosswalks for pedestrians. Tourists who die taking selfies, especially if it was an area they weren't supposed to be in.